everyone and welcome. Today we will begin speaking about obedience versus willfulness. Obedience is the quality or state of being submissive to the restraint or command of authority, an act or instance of following commands or guidance. Obedience is cheerfully carrying out the decisions and wishes of those who are responsible for me. Obedience comes from the Latin words ob and audio and means literally to hear. Obedience contrasts with willfulness in that a willful person doesn't listen. A willful person follows after his or her own will without regard for what authorities have to say. It is important to understand the difference between mistakes, errors, and failures. A mistake is the result of miscalculation, inability, or accidental oversight. An error is the result of wrong information, wrong processes, or wrong understanding. And a failure is the result of a lack of character. So obedience means that I will obey my authorities immediately. It means to have a cheerful attitude. Obedience means to complete all that I'm expected to do. And obedience means to go the extra mile. It means taking responsibility for one's actions is a step in character development. So, obedience means to obey my authorities immediately. While true obedience obeys right away, an obedient child, for instance, must consider a command and obey only if the request is lawful. An obedient child recognizes that some laws supersede others' laws and that they must always follow the higher standard. To comply immediately to something wrong may be as harmful as to delay doing something right. However, obedience must be consistent. A child cannot pick and choose which instructions to obey and which ones to ignore merely of preference. Obedience means to have a cheerful attitude. A cheerful attitude makes even difficult tasks easier to complete. It also implies support for teachers and their plans and tells others that they trust their authorities to protect and care for them. Obedience means to complete all that I'm expected to do. A classroom assignment is really a designation of short-term authority. For example, an obedient student accepts temporary responsibility for an assignment until it is completed. Failing to finish a project is to fail a teacher's trust. Completing an assignment demonstrates that the student is worthy of added responsibility. It is also important to know the respective jurisdiction of those in authority. Complying with the instructions from one authority may often conflict with the instructions of another. An obedient student should respectfully request unrelated or indirect authorities to verify instructions with his or her teacher. Likewise, a wise teacher respects the jurisdictions of others in a school and doesn't knowingly contradict or question another teacher publicly. Obedience also means that I will not complain. To grumble as one complies with instruction is not true obedience. To grumble implies independence, disagreement, and doubt. if doubt exists, an appeal should be made directly to the decision maker in a spirit of cooperation. If an appeal is not approved, submitting to the decision without complaining proves your loyalty and earns a hearing for appeals in the future. Obedience means that I will go the extra mile. Historic Roman law permitted soldiers to conscript civilians to carry their heavy packs. The civilian was required to go 1 mile. However, some chose to go above and beyond their legal obligation. When a student goes an extra mile, he or she demonstrates obedience at the highest level. Like a cheerful attitude, the act of obedience conveys agreement with and support for a teacher. Completing the letter of what is required earns praise. However, completing the intent of what is required earns trust and respect, elevating a student to a position of honor and influence. Now, obedience is such an important character trait. For instance, God created Adam and Eve, and God placed Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and He told Adam and Eve not to eat from the forbidden fruit, or from the forbidden tree. But we know the story that they did eat of the forbidden tree, and they disobeyed God, and the consequences were fatal. And it is important that children obey their parents. The Bible says that those who obey their parents, they will be greatly rewarded with a long and a happy life. The next character trait that we want to discuss is sincerity versus hypocrisy. Sincerity is honesty of mind or intention. Freedom from simulation or hypocrisy, or genuine. The definition of sincerity is eagerly doing what is right with transparent motive. Ancient Roman potters tried to imitate the high-quality craftsmanship of the Greeks. But the Romans used inferior materials. When the pots were fired, they often cracked. To hide the imperfections, potters would fill the cracks with wax and then paint over them. Customers would not know the pots were flawed until they were placed in the fire and the wax melted. As a result, honest merchants labeled their good pottery sincere, Latin for without wax. To do what is right with transparent motives, one needs to be without wax. The benefit of transparent motives is as much for oneself as it is for others. When the wax, which covers a hidden motive, melts, someone is sure to get burned. Hidden motives always surface and eventually hurt everyone involved. It is said that we elect officials for office, and later on we find out that they lack character. Character is the most important thing that one can achieve in life. It's not the riches, it's not the knowledge, it's not the power, it's not a name, but is character. Character is who you are. There is no excuse for lack of character. Sincerity is not an excuse for expressing hurtful or angry feelings, even though this is how you truly feel at the moment. Always check your motives first, and then you can speak with a transparent motive. Sincerity means to be all that I can be. It means to take responsibility for my own actions. It means to respect others' opinions. Sincerity means always to mean what I say. And sincerity means not to take advantage of other people. Sincerity involves action. However, if a person does what is right, but with wrong motives, he or she is not sincere. Furthermore, sincerity is doing what is right at all time. To be sincere means to be all you can be. Every person has the potential to be a highly effective individual. However, it all centers around the choices a person makes. One can choose to do his or her very best and excel in life's challenges. Or one can choose to merely get by making as little effort as possible. Sincere people choose to develop and fulfill all their talents and abilities, keeping nothing hidden from others. To be sincere means to take responsibility for your own actions. Children, for instance, must learn that others will respect them if they take responsibility for their actions. This not only includes their successes, but even their failures. As children admit when they are wrong, others will appreciate their humility and willingness to correct their mistakes. One who makes excuses or blames others loses the respect of the very ones they want to impress. Though it is not always easy, taking responsibility for one's actions is a prerequisite for genuine sincerity. To be sincere means to respect others' opinions. The world is full of many different kinds of people. Children must realize that not everyone looks alike or thinks alike. They must look for the positive qualities in others and learn to see things from another's perspective. A child can respect another's opinion without agreeing with it. Because every person deserves respect, children should listen fully to the ideas of others and give them the attention they deserve. Sincerity also means that you always mean what you say. A person should never underestimate the power and influence of the tongue. Every word that is spoken has the potential to heal or to destroy, insult or encourage, manipulate or motivate. That is why we must be very careful with our words. Every kind of words can be damaging when spoken insincerely. Furthermore, we must learn to be consistent. Someone who says one thing to one person and something else to another cannot be trusted. However, sincerity is not an excuse to brashly say whatever on our mind. And sincerity means not to take advantage of other people. To be sincere, a person's motives must be transparent, unselfish, and without hidden intentions. All of us need the help of honest and sincere friends, but get taken advantage of by those with hidden motives. Encourage one another, to stand for what is right by not taking advantage of those in need. The next character trait we want to talk about is virtue versus impurity. Virtue is general moral goodness, right acting and thinking morality. A particular moral quality regarded as good or meritorious, effective power or force, the ability to heal or strengthen, chastity. The definition of virtue is demonstrating honesty and integrity in my life by doing what is right. The Latin root of virtue is the word vir. Vir is the term for a full-grown adult man. The related word virtus means strength. Virtue points to the idea of full-grown, mature, moral strength. Responsibility. The greatest contribution to the world is not the work one does, but the influence that one has on others day by day. That influence cannot be forced. It has to be natural. A person does not need to draw attention to his or her virtue. Words, actions, and attitudes speak for themselves. In fact, if a person makes a show of virtue, it ceases to be virtue. Rather, it becomes pride and showmanship. A virtuous person avoids compromise. A virtuous person does not need to defend his or her reputation. By focusing on virtue, one's reputation will take care of itself. There is no need to compromise. People will always honor and respect those men and women of integrity whom they know they can trust to do what is right. So to be virtuous means to do what is right and encourage others to do the same. It means to guard our eyes, ears, words, and thoughts. It means to learn to stand alone when necessary. It means to abstain from anything which might damage or pollute our minds and bodies. It means to treat others as we would like them to treat us. Demonstrating virtue centers around the choices we make and the actions that follow. Virtue is the culmination of many different character qualities. To be virtuous means to do what is right and encourage others to do the same. A virtuous person will do what is right for the sole reason that it is right, even when no one else is watching. Furthermore, a person is always influencing those around him or her, either positively or negatively. That is why virtuous individuals let their examples influence others for good. We should learn to speak up and make a difference as we encourage others to make right decisions too. To be virtuous means to guard our eyes, ears, words, and thoughts. There are many influences around us that can either encourage good character or destroy it. It is imperative for all of us to be able to discern what influences to guard against. Eyes have been described as the window to the soul and should therefore be protected as to what they see. Things heard and seen strongly affect a person. A child's outward expressions are often directly related to the images he or she sees on television, read in books or magazines, or heard on music albums and radio. The words and actions of a child stem from his or her thoughts. Thus, the thoughts and intents of a person are most critical in guarding against wrong influences. It also means to learn to stand alone. Standing alone is a vital lesson that every person must learn. There are times when others will entice to do things that we know are wrong. It is imperative that we know what is right so we can recognize when something is not good. For us to stand alone against harmful influences, strength of character must already be firmly in place. Character is not developed when we are tested, but character is proven whether we have it or not when we are being tested. Those who can stand alone for what is right are equipped with one of the most vital tools in life. It also means to abstain from anything which may damage or pollute our minds or bodies. We may be pressured to take part in things that will damage or pollute our minds or bodies. We must realize that decisions made now will have a tremendous effect on us in the future. A person is responsible for his or her own actions. You know the saying, garbage in, garbage out. A person is responsible, therefore, for his or her own actions. If a person dabbles in drugs, alcohol, nicotine, or pornography, they will experience harmful consequences. The mind and body should be developed to their fullest ability and protected from damage caused by unwise behavior. We should be encouraged to stay far away from harmful things and never underestimate their influence. It also means to treat others as we would them to treat us. Every person wants to be treated with respect. Therefore, we need to remember that others desire respect as well. If a person doesn't want to be pushed or shoved by a sibling, he or she should not do so either. Calling people names or being dishonest are examples of not treating others as one would like to be treated. Therefore, we must learn to take the initiative to be kind and considerate toward others. The next character trait we'd like to talk about is boldness versus fearfulness. Boldness is the quality of daring, characterized by confidence, not timorous, not restrained to the norm or expected, abruptness, prominence, standing out to the eye. The definition of boldness is confidence that what I have to say or do is true, right, and just. Courage is having strength to face danger, pain, or difficulty without shrinking from it. Bravery is having resolve stronger than the force of my fear. And fortitude is having strength to endure under attack. Boldness is foundational to all three of these. It is the confidence which fuels courage, bravery, and fortitude with the knowledge that what I have to say or do is true, right, and just. It considers a cause worthy of whatever sacrifice may be required. Purpose follows principle. When George Washington was appointed America's commanding general, he confided in Patrick Henry, "This day will be the commencement of the decline of my reputation." When Abraham Lincoln ran for the U.S. Senate in 1858, consultants advised him not to address slavery in his campaign speech. He responded, "It is true, and I will deliver it as written. I would rather be defeated with these expressions than be victorious without them." Both Washington and Lincoln stood boldly on principle. They endured major criticism as a result of their politically incorrect statements, but both went on to become presidents. They found purpose in principle and were willing to sacrifice immediate success for lasting results. Their boldness and confidence in what was right cost both men dearly, but their legendary character remains today. So what does it mean to be bold? It means not to be afraid to speak the truth. It means to keep a clear conscience. It means to support others when they are right. It also means to be willing to stand alone. And boldness also means to speak with humility. The first step to boldness is knowing what is true, right, and just. Things that stand regardless of popular opinion. The second step is to boldness, acting upon those principles. So boldness is not being afraid to speak the truth. Speaking the truth isn't always easy. Sometimes it brings ridicule, embarrassment, or scorn. Boldness, however, is knowing that the truth is more important than personal reputation or temporary acceptance by others. We need not to fear losing a friend because of the truth. Indeed, any friendship worth keeping must be built on truthfulness. To be bold also means to keep a clear conscience. Guilt eats away at confidence. People with a guilty conscience often experience great fear and insecurity. Even the smallest incidents trigger their fears and cause them to either cower or overreact. Boldness requires people to set aside their pride, admit their wrong, and ask for forgiveness of those involved. By maintaining a clear conscience, we can speak and act with assurance that no one can accuse us of unresolved conflict or failure. To be bold means to support others when they are right. True boldness sustains, upholds, and defends the causes of others when they are right. It supports right principles and right character in others without being self-serving. It does not discriminate on the basis of race, gender, age, economic status, or other outward appearance. When others do things that are wrong, boldness rejects the wrong without rejecting the individual. It allows people to still support a person even though they can't support his or her principles. Boldness dares to distinguish right from wrong, but without a condemning attitude toward others. Boldness is being willing to stand alone. Boldness is easy when others join the same cause. But we may not always enjoy such reinforcement from our friends, family, or neighbors. There will be times when we may have to stand alone. It is at those times that we especially need the courage to take a stand. When things go awry in the teacher's absence, for instance, in a classroom, when peer pressure grows to do wrong on playground, or when no one is at home to see misdeeds, a child must stand not because it is easy, but because it is the right thing. Boldness also means to speak with humility. Being right never justifies attitudes of pride, arrogance, or harshness. When we speak boldly, we must do so in a manner that reflects a humble attitude. We must be bold, but not to go charging around like a proverbial bull in a china shop. So it is important that we develop these character qualities. Because our time is up, Lord's willing, we will continue these character traits in the next session. For now, I want to thank you and may God bless you.